The main things that I wanted to learn this summer were how to improve my portraits, and I wanted to really boil it down into a few tangible things that I found useful and that I took away from my practice this summer and just pass them on to you. They're very simple, very straightforward, and I think they'll elevate your portrait photography no matter kind of what background you have or what level you're at. The first thing that made the biggest difference was learning how to use flash, and this is always that scary hump that all of us natural light photographers like to hide behind, or it's a hump that we have to get over at a certain point with our photography, and it's a really fun one to get over too, even though it is a bit intimidating in the beginning to learn the way light bounces and the way that light works with your flash. It's one of the things that I think would elevate your photography if you haven't taken that plunge just yet. Most of the time in the past, I've just been taking portraits outside, picking optimal times a day, so that the lighting is mostly taken care of by the choices that I've made for setting. And that's a great way to do it until you're faced with those situations where you're like, I can't actually control the light in this situation. So for instance, I shot a wedding not too long ago that was in a old mattress factory. And so it was brick, it was wood, and there's very little natural light. And sure, if you really want to push your camera and you want to crank that ISO and really push your camera to its limits, I even have like a full frame one, so like you can get down, but obviously you're not going to get the best results if you're just pushing your camera in that direction. It's really not going to work out exactly how you want it, and you're not going to have as much control over the light. So learning flash photography, learning to attach that to your camera, using it off your camera, using a remote trigger, that was one of the things that made the biggest thing. And I think that I always just want to push photographers, even if they're just using kind of any kind of camera, to start testing the waters with flash. One of the ways that I made this a bit fun was just using a small digital camera and just kind of seeing some of those images that you can create with your flash. Because you can stop motion, because you can use it with manual focus and a whole bunch of other things, it really opens all kinds of doors for your photography. And I've been using things like shoots for umbrellas, like I have even right now above me here, and creating some fun portraits for families. So, shooting in places like basements, that opens that door for me, because now I can just manipulate light in such a better way. And not only that, but it really teaches you about sort of the limitations and the directions you can push your camera in. So I find it really fun, and I think that's something that everybody should try. Get over that hump and just push past that barrier that flash photography has over you. I promise you're going to make some terrible images, but it actually gets good pretty quickly too. So, try and experiment a little bit. One of the things that also really helped me be a better portrait photographer this summer was being a little bit more commanding behind the camera. And I know this is something that is a challenge again when you're just starting out, just moving people around, getting them to pose, everything like that. It's a bit of a challenge with that communication, and that's a big part of developing, I think, especially as a portrait photographer. But it's learning the language that you need to say to people to get them in the right positions. So it can be something like a cue for at a wedding party, getting people to hold hands and bump their hips together and walk towards you. Something like that, where it's clear and concise with how you're instructing people to do poses and getting good photos and results out of that. There's tons of videos on YouTube that kind of explain that language of posing and how to make those shots actually happen. I have sort of set commands that I prepare on my phone, just on my notes app, just so that I can give those commands pretty freely and easily to make it easy for the people that I'm photographing to do what I want them to do, because a lot of the times it is confusing to be the person in front of the camera, and obviously if they're a client, then they're probably not that experienced with posing in front of you. So you got to make that easy on them and take that burden off of them, and it helps quite a lot. So be a little bit more of a commanding presence behind the camera, be a little bit bossy. That actually gets you some really good results, especially if there's some intention behind your instructions as well. Clear, brief, concise, you're winning right away. With the Notes app, another thing that I like to point out is that one of the greatest things that you can do is just make a shot list before anything that you do. And it can be something just as simple as 10 shots that you want to catch while you're there. You're going to get extra ones too, for sure, but I think that at a certain point, if you want to take that step up, elevate your photography, you really got to be walking in with a plan. If you've got no plan walking in, then anything could happen, and that means you could maybe achieve the best results of your life. Maybe that's going to happen, but more likely than not, you're going to miss some opportunities. you're going to look at your shots after you've taken them and there's going to be pieces missing. And it sucks to shoot for a whole day and know that you have pieces missing, because if it's an event, if it's portraits, that means you missed part of the story. So you kind of have to plan to capture some of that and elicit some of that when you're going out there to do your portraits. So I would recommend just doing something very simple, low friction, like using a notes app, making your shot list, making it easy for you to understand, and pairing your shot list with your commands. So just like I said in the previous tip, it's good to have those clear, concise instructions. You can pair them with the shot list as well, so that you can look down, know what shots you're going to get, know how to pair those two things together, so that we get the shot, we get the command, we move on, and it's frictionless. So I like that. One of the very recent things that I've been experimenting with is a website called Pixieset, and it's just a way to put your photos onto a website so that it stores them, but then also so you can send them to your clients. I think it's relatively inexpensive for what they offer, and I think it's a really cool way to more professionally display your photos. So I think with the portraits, one of the things that I didn't like about what I was doing was I was sending them just as a Google Drive folder, essentially, after I shot them to people. And I always felt that this was a little lackluster, not only for them, but also for me. And so that was one thing that I wanted to elevate. I love photo albums, and I would like to get in the habit of offering services to like print some of those photo albums. But in the meantime, this is a good intermediate step where it's like, okay, we have a gallery display of the things that I've shot that I can send to people. And since I'm getting enough people regularly that use my services, then it sort of offsets that cost a little bit too. But it's a more professional way, I think, to showcase your photos to your clients, so that they can see the work, see that story and that cohesion that you put together. And you spend all that time editing anyways, you spend all that time color grading. It's nice to see it on a page for yourself, so you can see that story has balance. The nice thing about things like Pixieset, I'm not saying you got to use that one, there's tons out there, but you can move things around and tell the story easily. You can rearrange it and showcase the work that you put into it. So it doesn't have to be necessarily chronological, but it could be in a sort of a format that sort of speaks to how you saw that event and how you want people to receive that information too. So I thought it was a very fun way to actually put a gallery together, see my work. I was impressed by my work because I thought I had a lot of fun shooting it, but it was really nice to actually see that as the artist for me at the end of it too. It just adds a little bit more of that completion to the whole thing. The last thing that I have is a mantra that I'm always working on, and it's just this process of slowing down, especially for portraits and everything like that. And especially if you're more of a novice photographer like me, I'm growing out of that novice state and trying to become more of an intermediate shooter now. And so one of the things that I focus on is really slowing down my body language, my speech when I'm talking with clients, and also just communicating more effectively, but just slowing down the way that I'm acting with my camera too. It can be really tempting to just fire things off fast and get a million photos at the end of it, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But for me, I found it very helpful to slow down, be a little bit more mindful about how I'm shooting, and not only does it make for better photos for me personally, but then the way I'm feeling about that shoot and how I'm enjoying it personally as an artist, that changes and it adds a lot to it too. So that would be something I would say that's always going to be a theme for me shooting, is slowing down, being very intentional about what I'm shooting, making sure that the camera settings are exactly what I want them to be, making sure that my white balance is there, making sure that I'm in the right focus mode. And I know those are things that are obviously beginner sorts of tips and errors that you make, but even as an intermediate shooter, even for people who've been shooting for a long time, as soon as you start rushing, your skill degrades. So I think that it's important to just be mindful about slowing down, doing things at a pace that you can enjoy and that the people that you're shooting with are going to enjoy and respond to as well. So I think it makes for some better shooting. Anyways, that was the kind of thing. Those are the things that really helped me out this summer. I'm really excited to move into the fall and do some fall family portraits. I've got a few lined up this week, and they're always very exciting to shoot because you get those beautiful colors. But it just, I think all of these tools in my bag are going to be really fun pieces to put into play, and I'm excited to see where I can grow and learn a little bit more next. So if you have some good tips for portraits that you've been learning over the summer and the last year, drop them in the comments. It's always good to hear from other people and learn what they have to know. So we'll catch you in the next video. I hope this one was useful.